Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whichever one it is for you. My name is Sayero, Sayero Knowles. And here we are on Kctv News, Kazeba Connections. And we're going to give you some storyline today that we all should be thinking of and wondering how this all fits into the scheme of everything. So we're going to get right to the news. Storyline here today is Aubrey's killers. Ahmaud Aubrey's killers sent many racist messages. FBI analyst says one defendant spoke of violence against black people, period. Well, we all know that this is the nature of that type of colonizer, or some people would call him a racist. The distinction is that you have what are also called uh, settler colonizers. And we have those. Those are ones that don't really control anything, but they have that privileged mentality. And in this case, the McMichaels and the Bryant who was sending out text messages about black people, period, African people, period, and their hatred. It was not about Ahmaud Arbery jogging through the neighborhood as much as it was the hatred that they have for black people, Africans, anyway. And this is like an inbred situation. So in the courtroom this week, the uh, the FBI agent started spewing out all of the text messages, and the one that right there, hold it right there for a second, Roddy Bryant, the one that you see there that wants to look all innocent and like he was like not there to him or put Ahmaud Arbery in any danger. He just wanted to make sure that things were going to go well. No, he's the one that bumped him with the truck. Remember, he bumped Ahmaud Arbery, sort of corralling him into a scene of capture. That's what they do. The sad part about it is that he's a liar like the rest of them. The sad part about it is it's not in their spirit or in their soul to tell the truth. And there are many of them throughout the country and across the globe. Throughout the country and across the globe. There's the McMichael that shot and killed Ahmaud Arbery right there. He is just like his daddy. His daddy's a cop. His daddy was a cop. And that mentality, if you have these types as cops, they have a history of beating on black people, African people anyway. Then the sad thing about it was that Roddy Bryant, the one that was in the glasses, his daughter was dating a young black man. I'll say it again. The one that was sitting off to the side that we saw at first, Roddy Bryant. Go back, take it back a couple of times. Roddy Bryant, right there in the center. He had a daughter that was dating a young African man, and he hated it. She just started dating him. So he had it in for Africans as well. The sheer hatred to kill. He was all the way in there, and it should not have been 6 counts on him. It should have been all 9 counts as well as it was for the McMichaels. Next shot, please. Um, Ahmaud Arbery. Let's go to Ahmaud Arbery. Here's a young man. He's just jogging, just like you and I would go for a jog. He lives in the same community. He lives in that community. He's 1.8 miles from the McMichael's home. So he's jogging in an area that he normally jogs in. And it was the owner of the property that he was on studying. Now, mind you, Ahmaud Arbery had inhibitions to become an electrician. So he's in there studying the work that was going on, not stealing anything. Even the owner said this from the very beginning, that he never took a thing. So that thing about him stealing or breaking into cars never did occur. Never did occur. All of that was fabrication, trying to do the cover up. And mind you, the prosecutor over the initial should have done the initial arrest, was not only a friend of the McMichaels, but the father McMichaels, Greg, was also a detective in the prosecutor's office. The same prosecutor is now in trouble for her role of doing the cover up. And as we all know, they do the cover up. Here's a young brother, a young man, like any one of us, but especially our young men and young women, that could get killed just for walking while African, while walking while black. And you know it's escalating. Pay close attention. Start paying attention about your surroundings. Start paying attention about your family. Look out for your neighbor. We're going to go to our next story now. We're going to go to Demarion. Yes, we're going to go to Demarion. You know, the FedEx worker. Lawyers say black FedEx driver was chased and shot at in Mississippi, drawing comparisons to Mark Arbery's murder. These are copycat murderers, or wannabe murderers. They're the case father and son. You see them right there on the screen right now. That's the case father and son. Put that back. Yeah, there we go. That's young Omarion, and this is the case family. And these are the two, and they look just like the McMichaels in that sense. You know, look at them. That's the McMichaels. And they said that they're so similar. You know, he looked like his daddy, and Brian looked like they could be brothers, right? They all the same looking like. But look at him. Don't he looks just like his father. But yet and still, now watch what happens with young Demarion. Demarion, the FedEx driver. Gregory and Brandon case have been charged. Now they finally been charged in the alleged January 24th incident. A father and son are facing criminal charges after allegedly chasing and shooting at a black FedEx driver while he was delivering packages in Brookville or Brookhaven, Mississippi. The driver, a 24-year-old DeMontario Gibson, I said Demarion, but it's DeMontario Gibson, was delivering packages to a home in the city on January 24th at around 7 p.m. When he says the driver of the white pickup truck approached him and started blowing his horn. In other words, blowing his horn, and he thought he wanted to pass. So he's waving them on. At that point, my instincts kicked in because they weren't passing on. And I swerved around him as he was trying to cut me off. The driver had gotten in front of the case brother, son and father had gotten in front of him. So he swerved around him to avoid them. As he drove further down the street, a man in the road allegedly started to point a gun. A man in the road, another man, at the vehicle, and eventually fired shots that struck the van. That man was the younger of the cases. That man was the bearded young man. Can we put him back up on the screen? The case, that's him. That's a young case right there that was doing the shooting. And his father, who also had a gun. At that point, my instincts kicked in, he says, and I swerved around him as he is trying to cut me off to avoid getting struck or stuck in the neighborhood. That's what young DeMontario says, Gibson. As he drove further down the street, a man in the road allegedly started to point a gun at the vehicle and eventually fired shots that struck the van. Now, in a CNN report, the affidavits show that Gregory Case was driving the truck. That's the father, Gregory, another Gregory, Greg McMichael, Gregory Case. The truck chasing Gibson and his son, Brandon, just like the other McMichael, Brandon Case. There's Travis McMichael and there's Brandon Case. Was the person in the street pointing the gun, that was Brandon, at him. same as it was with Travis with the shotgun. According to CNN, Gregory was charged with unlawfully and feloniously conspiring with Brandon to commit aggravated assault by attempting to cause bodily injury. Now, wait a minute. That's that charge. Should it not have been a charge of attempted murder? We're going to read on. It should have been a charge of attempted murder, not doing just great bodily harm. When you shoot at somebody, you intending to kill them. Brandon is charged with felonious attempting to cause bodily injury with a firearm and a deadly weapon. After he allegedly shot at the vehicle Gibson was driving. The Brookhaven Police Department and Gibson's lawyer, Carlos Moore, didn't immediately return response for questioning by the media. At the time of the alleged incident, Gibson was in a Hertz rental van featuring 2 Hertz stickers on the back. Moore told CNN his client was wearing a FedEx jacket, shirt, and pants, although the vehicle didn't have any FedEx markings. In a statement issued to People, it was People magazine, FedEx extended the support to Gibson as it continues to cooperate with the police in the case. Now, let me get on to this. FedEx, if you recall, and you probably have heard this, FedEx asked him to go back to the same area and work the next day. FedEx was not concerned about young Gibson's safety. FedEx didn't even call the police. It was young DeMontario Gibson that called the police. FedEx gave less than a darn about this young man's life. And there's been a history with FedEx and African black men, drivers. There have been some who have been killed. 2012, an example. Man was driving. A man comes up and shoots him in the FedEx truck. In this particular case, sheer colonial racism, white supremacy. This is what we're against. The good old boy system, a system that just hates black men, black women, and I'm going to tell you why. Because of our superiority. We have to have been geniuses to have lived generationally as long as we have. So mind you, now this is, they're finally been arrested. They bonded out. You and I would not have bonded out. This is not, again, as assault with the intent to do great bodily harm. But the fact of the matter is, you and I, all of us that are listening and looking, know that if that had been the other way around, you probably would have been shot to death by the police. There would have been no time lapse in the police arriving on the scene based on a call. So we're going to move on to our next segment here. We're going to go on to the story of Miss USA. Chelsea Chris, 30 years old. Now listen at this. Former Miss USA Chelsea Chris, 30 years old, leaps to her death from 60 stories off of a New York high-rise. The building she lived in. Now mind you, she lives on the 9th floor. She goes to visit someone on the 29th floor. She ends up jumping from the 60th floor. We'll get into some reasoning behind that. Anyway, it says beauty queen lawyer. Mind you now, she studied to become a lawyer. She's working on on television. She's doing interviews with stars and everybody else. She's a talent. There was no reason for her to jump on her own off of any building. Former Miss USA winner and extra correspondent on E! Channel Extra, Chelsea Chris, 30, died in a suspected suicide. And you watch these words, suspected. is the words that they would use if they shot you or I in the head, speaking of the imperialist police, and the camera was not on, it would be you committed suicide. Now, this was in Manhattan on Sunday morning. This is about a month ago, back in January, at 7:15 a.m. Chris jumped from the 60-story Orion building, where she had an apartment on the ninth floor. She had last been seen on a terrace on the building's 29th floor. Chris won Miss USA pageant in 2019, representing North Carolina, running on a platform of criminal justice reform. So she's studying at that time to become an attorney. She was a former complex civil litigation attorney and licensed to practice in North and South Carolina. Civil litigation meaning when people sue for finances, property, those types of things, that is a civil suit. She had been working as a correspondent for the entertainment show Extra and had received 2 Daytime Emmy nominations for her work. Chris had been a mental health advocate and spoken on how she looked after herself in several recent interviews. A mental health advocate. Why would she, and who do you know that's of African descent, that's going to jump from some 60 stories? I don't know of any. So let's go over this. Let's critique this. She lived on the ninth floor. She visits someone or someone's on the 29th floor. She jumps from the 60th story. This is most questionable because it just doesn't make sense. Has there truly been any investigation by an outside source, meaning the parents or some relative or some ACLU or some outside entity other than the police department? Any investigation by anything other than the colonial settler imperialist? The who, what, why, where, when, and how? None of that has taken place. Immediately when that happened, they said the very day that she committed suicide. You and I both, and all of us, I'm sure, have a note in our mind. She was pushed off that balcony. I'll say it. I don't need a disclaimer for that. That is my humble opinion. And the reason I say that is because you, again, and I would not. I would never, I don't jump from the first balcony. It had to be something really happening for me to jump from the first story, let alone jump from a 60-story building. Let's go to our next story. Let's give an update on Amir Locke's shooting case. And what is being done to the officer who shot him? That's a good question. Well, they've yet to do anything about Amir Locke's case. Here it is. What they did on February 8th, prosecutors in Minnesota on Tuesday charged a teenager in a shooting that led to the raid in which police shot and killed Amir Locke. Ramsey prosecutors filed a juvenile petition, charging Locke's cousin, 17-year-old Mackay C. Speed, with 2 counts of second-degree murder in the fatal shooting of 38-year-old Otis Elder. Charging documents shared Tuesday revealed that Speed was living in a different unit of the Valero Flats apartment homes, but had access to the apartment where Locke lived, right? So if he lived in a different flat, how did they choose that flat where Amir Locke was? That's the question. Oh, and mind you, the same, and I said this last week, the same judge, Judge Cahill, who sentenced, who sat through, who was the judge over the Derek Chauvin murder of George Floyd, is the same judge that signed the no-knock warrant. Remember we discussed no-knock warrants last week. no-knock warrants are there when they're in place is a setup to kill whoever's in that house. They did it to Breonna Taylor, they did it to Fred Hampton. They've done it to so many that we don't even know about. Pay attention, people. This could be you or I. What happened was now his brother, lived with him, right? Police had warrants to enter Speed's unit, a unit belonging to another suspect seen at the scene of the shooting, and the unit where Speed's brother lives. Investigators said police entered the first two units and found neither Speed nor the other suspect. Then they traveled to the third unit where footage from one of the officers' body cameras, that's the one when they entered with the key, quietly entering, sneaking like thieves in the night, showed police using the key to unlock the apartment door as they entered while shouting, "Search warrant," when they got in. Search warrant, boom, boom, boom. Stomping the floor, kicking the couch. Now, 9 seconds into all of that, pow, 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 pow. And we saw in the video where Amir Locke was asleep. He rose up groggy. He's in a dead sleep. It's 6:54 or 57 in the morning. He doesn't rise up with the gun pointing. He rises up, the gun in his right hand. Just picture it, his finger on the barrel, not the trigger of the gun. What was that if it were not murder? What was that if it was not premeditated murder? By way of the colonial construct, by the way of the prosecutor's office, the judge's Cahill signing off on the warrant, and then the murder occurring. This was wanton murder. We need to not get it twisted. We need to not say, well, there's going to be some justice. You can never bring Amir Locke back. We'll never get Breonna Taylor back. And that is the same place. This is the same place where you saw they killed Dante Wright. And she's got, by the way, Kim Potter's court hearing starts today as you are watching this news. It starts today, Friday the 19th, 18th, I'm sorry, at 12 p.m. on the news. It'll be, go to YouTube, look it up, Kim Potter, the killer cop of Dante Wright, who's got lesser charges. Put on crocodile tear fronts. They all do. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. And in the case of what happened to Amir Locke, you're going to see the same game, the same party. And it's just a game. Because these things, these people, these, I don't know what to call them. You know what to call them. We all call them names. Names that I can't say on the news right now. But let's say for sure, we have to change our way of thinking about how we do business. I want to leave you with these words right here. The words are, we got to become a collective, y'all. We've got to become ones that look out for one another, whether we want to or not. Whether I like you or I don't like you. You know what's even worse than me not liking you or you not liking me? We are all hated by the same thing that cares nothing about us, has no soul, even in a pretense. You got to watch your back. You got to watch your neighbor's back. You got to begin to become a collective. It ain't, we talk about turf. We own no turf. I'm speaking to gang members. We own nothing. I've seen it throughout my whole life. At the end of the day, when they want to come in, and gentrify the community. They come in and they take out everybody. They move everybody by any means and all means necessary. When they want to develop and steal graveyards, wipe out all of our generations, they come in and wipe it all out. We own no turf. We own nothing. We're a mode of production for the colonial and capitalist imperialistic system. So I say this with you on my way out. I'd like you to watch every Friday. Same channel, same station, Kctv News. The Zebra Connections at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. Like, subscribe, and follow. And make a comment.